Wow. Well, do I have a treat for you guys today? Well, I have a treat for you every day, but today I'm going to be bringing the conversation that I had with two very special women, Dawn Simmons and her daughter Katie. In this episode, it's a little bit heavy, but it's also the kind of conversation that doesn't stay on the surface for very long. So I sat down with Dawn and Katie, who together started the nonprofit, the Simmons Three, after the unimaginable loss of Dawn's three children and Katie's three siblings in a car accident. There's no tidy way to talk about something like that, so we didn't try to, but we talked about grief and what it feels like when your heart is shattered. We talked about faith and not the neat kind, the Sunday morning version, but the kind that gets tested in such a surreal way and that it cracks your life wide open. This is the kind of conversation where we talk about how do you survive survival and just keep breathing. How do you even manage to stay alive? One thing Dawn said to me that struck me so much was that just because you're alive doesn't mean that you're actually living. And I can imagine that when your heart has been shattered, like hers was, hope doesn't just show up one day. It takes a lot of time to believe that something can actually grow again in your life after such a loss. So, what Dawn and Katie are doing with Simmons 3, their nonprofit, is it's extraordinary in terms of its generosity, but how they've chosen to keep moving forward by not pretending that the pain isn't there, but by letting it shape them and their experience into something meaningful is exactly what how to survive survival is all about. So this conversation is raw, it's honest, and at times it's really hard. I again started to cry, which I'm sure you're getting used to by now, but it's also about what it looks like to keep going when life becomes something that you never would have chosen and you never would have thought you could have survived. So I'm really grateful that they trusted me with their time and their story, and um, I think that you will feel the same when you listen over the next hour. So, without further ado, welcome to Dawn and Katie. Hi, I'm Jessica Buchanan, and this is How to Survive Survival. This podcast is about what comes after the crisis, after the moment that changes everything, after you've done what you had to do just to get through. Each week, I sit down with people who faced hardship and made a deliberate choice about what to do with it. People who've turned pain into purpose, who found a way to make meaningful contribution because of what they survived, not in spite of it. Because survival isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of who you become next. Welcome to the show. Dawn and Katie, I'm so grateful that you're here and that you have the time and the energy and you're of sound mind enough to come on this show to talk to us about how you in particular, how both of you have survived survival. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
I think it's always important to give our listeners a bit of context as to what it is you have actually been forced to survive. So, if we could start there, and then I have so many questions for you. But if you could just give us a little bit of a context, that would be great.
Okay, well, it was December 17th of 2021. My son Christopher had a basketball game, which was about a 4-hour drive from where we lived. It was the last day of school before Christmas break. So the kids had a half a day of school, exams, came home at noon, and then we proceeded to head to Monroe, Louisiana, played the basketball game. Our little our little team won. We were undefeated, which was quite a feat. And then kids were hungry, stopped at Subway, proceeded to come home to begin the holidays and all the great stuff around that time of year. We were about an hour and a half away from home, traveling on I-49 South when a drunk driver entered onto the interstate the wrong way.
Mm.
He proceeded to hit us. He was doing 80 to 90 miles per hour. He was 3 times the legal limit and in his underwear when he hit us head on. And Lindy, my 20-year-old daughter, Christopher, my 17-year-old son, and Kamryn, my 15-year-old daughter, who are the three youngest of 9 children. We also had Christopher's girlfriend, Marissa, in the car with us. And on the impact of that night. Lindy was killed instantly at 9:01 p.m. Kamryn passed away at 10:33 p.m. that night, and Christopher at 11:06 that night. Marissa and I were the only two to survive that crash. Another thing to note, there were 5 deaths that occurred that night. Lindy, Christopher, Kamryn, the drunk driver, was killed as well. And further down the road, they were diverting traffic, and an elderly man rear-ended a state patrol car, and he was killed as well. So it was a horrible night.
And my mom doesn't remember anything past when they left Subway that night, which was at 7:06. And the crash happened, like she said, at 9:01. I was at a Christmas party with my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. So, we're, mingling and stuff like that. And my dad calls and says, Mom's been in a wreck. It doesn't look good, but she's stable. And I'm like, okay, where are y'all? I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to find him. And he's like, no, it's foggy. You have your kids. And I'm like, no, where are y'all? I'm on the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to the hospital. The 3 kids aren't there. My mom and Marissa are there. So we're thinking they maybe got airlifted. So I'm calling all the hospitals around. My best friend was just spitting out the phone numbers to me, and no one had them. So we were just so confused because why were they in a wreck with
Right.
her? But it was just we were confused. And then we got the call letting us know that the young blonde driver passed away. We figured that was Lindy. It could have been Kamryn. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just in denial without having like
Yeah.
a solid name. And that's when we saw the Facebook post that said there were 2 fatalities, no names. So that actually the Facebook post is what started off us knowing that there was a fatality. So we ended up getting a call. Well, so when the state trooper called, he also said, my best guess is that they're at a hospital called Opelousas General, because that's closest to where the crash happened. So in the meantime, my mother-in-law had gotten there. She said, get in the car. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to find them. So hopped in the car. I got there. They let me know the young girl that I have here has expired. So I'm expecting to walk in and see Lindy. I walk in, she's in a body bag,
Oh my.
white body bag zipped up. And it's only midnight at this point. The wreck was at 9. So when the nurse opened the body bag, it was my sister Kamryn, and I'm 16 years older than her. I got my
Mhm.
driver's license a month before she was born. So like,
Yeah.
they're like my little baby. So when I saw it was Kamryn, I called my dad. I let him know. He's crying. So my
Mm.
mother-in-law asked as a nurse, can you please go help us find these other kids? Because I'm like,
Right.
okay, I can't do anything to help Kamryn, but where's Lindy and Christopher? So he steps out. He comes back in. He lets me know. He said, I found your brother. He's at Bunkie General. And I'm like, oh, thank God he's okay. And I said, well, I guess if he's at a hospital, he's not okay, but at least he's alive. And he was
Right.
like, and
No.
then I said, well, what about my sister Lindy? And he said, she's still stuck in the car. So I went from a night with my family and friends hanging out. We were playing a fun little game where you pop the balloon between you and your
Mhm.
husband. Just a fun night to the end of the night. My question was, which funeral home do you want your 3 siblings brought to?
Oh my God.
All in a matter of like hours.
Yeah. Your whole world has just been
Whole
shattered.
world. And then she actually, and I didn't realize this that night, when she got to the hospital, they have a trauma scale that they can assign you a number. And if you're 25 or higher, you're not expected to survive. And she was a 35.
Oh my
She
God.
was bleeding internally. Her carotid arteries were torn, both of
Oh,
them. Legs were crushed, ribs were crushed. So I didn't even know how vital, how serious she was. And then on Sunday, 2 days after the wreck, there were still COVID protocols in
mm-hmm.
place. So my brothers and all of them were at the hospital. I didn't make it to the next day because I was making funeral arrangements and
Mm.
all of that. And then on the Sunday is when I saw my mom for the first time. And the trauma surgeon who had did her leg surgery, he was like, look, she's starting to ask where the kids are. Y'all might need to make plans to let her know soon. So we were like, okay, maybe on Monday when all of her other kids, my other siblings fly in, we'll tell her as a family. Well, when I walked in that Sunday night to see her for the first time since the wreck, she's in and out of consciousness, but she looks me dead in the eye and says, "Where are the kids?"
Mhm.
So I'm like,
Mm.
Mom, we're just worried about you. We
Right.
want you to get better. And she's like, "Where are the kids?" And then that's when I had to tell her. I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "They're gone." And
Oh,
I mean, thank God she'll say this now.
Yeah.
She's so thankful for how injured she was.
yeah.
Because I don't think I could have carried the weight of
No.
the loss. I don't really think I could have carried the weight.
No.
Being that I was so injured and my body just physically was just not well, and the
Yeah.
medication and all the things, I never really took the weight of it on all at one time. It was more like an incremental thing, which it's crazy to say, but I'm thankful I was injured.
Hmm. I
I,
can get that. I
yeah.
mean, as much as someone who like, from an outside perspective, I mean, I think I would just be like, put me out. Like,
And even to this day, all the physical injuries, they really
Don't play a role in
they
this.
don't play a role in this. My heart was so broken. I
Mhm.
couldn't even, like, the injuries were just they would they didn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
My heart was just so broken. I
Yeah.
just couldn't get past that.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And how could you? And all I can think is how do you go on? Like how do you survive that kind of survival? Like this, I mean, if ever there was a story to epitomize what this phrase surviving survival is all about, I think it's yours. Like how you are living out, I think every mother's worst nightmare, every sister's worst nightmare. How do you survive that?
I was probably the most hopeless I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I will never forget. We ended up having the funeral on January 4th.
Mm,
I got home from the hospital on December 26th. It was the day after Christmas. And I'll never forget that, coming home and seeing all their presents under the Christmas tree,
mm,
walking in, or not walking,
Rolling.
rolling in, being wheeled into my home, knowing that those kids would never be back here.
mm,
It was the most, I've never felt so empty and so broken in my life.
mm,
So the funeral was January 4th. On January 3rd, we had our family viewing that we would be able to see him for the first time. And sitting in that wheelchair behind those closed doors, waiting for the funeral director to come and open them, I've just never experienced brokenness like that.
mm,
And once they were open, and just seeing those kids who were just so full of life and
mm,
had just the brightest futures ahead of them,
mm,
and seeing people you love so much, so young, in caskets,
mm,
it is something that, it's a big part of what we do today,
mm,
because I don't ever want another mom, another family to ever have to experience that from something that is so preventable,
mm,
just so preventable. But we saw the kids, and then the next day we had the funeral. I still don't remember everything about that day. It was just so, so overwhelming. But of course, they had a beautiful service. Katie had to do all the funeral things and pick up 18 pallbearers. I mean, their friends were backing out. Some of them said, "I just can't do it." It was, it
yeah.
was just, it was
Too
a
much.
lot of chaos.
And then I remember asking her, um, they're wanting to know at what point we should close the caskets. Because I had the task of planning it. I wanted to make sure I was doing everything she wanted,
Yeah.
but then it's like I felt like I was protecting her by not asking her these things, which
Right.
is silly because of course, it's but
But no one knows how to do this thing right.
right.
I mean, there's no playbook for a tragedy of this scale. And the fact that either one of you didn't just have some sort of complete psychotic break and lock yourselves in a room is beyond me because I'm pretty sure that's what I would have done. And that you were able to continue putting one foot in front of the other and then honoring their presence in their lives is really quite extraordinary.
Remember how you what you told me after? You always say like you told me one thing you didn't want them to be forgotten.
Oh yeah, that was it. I was still in the hospital, and I just once I began to get out of ICU, and
Mhm.
I just
Process it.
began to start processing it. My cry to her was, Katie, just please don't let him be forgotten.
Mm.
I didn't even know what that meant.
Okay.
It was just my mama's heart, like, don't let them be forgotten. They would, they have to be remembered. Like their legacy has to live on. They have to keep living on. Please don't let them be forgotten. I
Mhm.
didn't even know what that meant. I
Mhm.
I don't think she knew what that meant,
Mhm.
but it was just such a cry of my heart that these kids would not be forgotten.
Mhm. What is it about you both in particular? This is something that I'm like really fascinated, mildly obsessed with. This awareness and also just this ability to see beyond our own pain and say, I don't want another person to have to experience this. I find that that is often the driving force for people who have survived something horrific to then move forward in their survival journey, but also in a way that takes them outside of the focus or the center and starts centering others. And I'm curious if you would even be able to speak, like if you would be able to share about why that mattered to you.
It took about for months. I really just couldn't hardly speak.
Mhm.
It was quite a process.
Mhm.
I had just never been. I'm usually I'm a very optimistic person. I
Mhm.
always see things on the bright side, half full instead of half
Yeah.
empty. And this just broke me in a way I had never experienced before. I just didn't know how to deal with it. The lifeline of dealing with this has definitely been my faith. That
Yeah.
that definitely has been my lifeline. But I was just so hopeless. And I didn't know I didn't know how to navigate it. So I mean, for months, I just really didn't hardly speak much. I just didn't know how to deal with it. And it was the strangest thing. The way I began to get my hope back was actually through a YouTube video, through a YouTube video. It was the testimony of a lady named Dr. Mary Neal. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she had a near-death experience. She's a what kind of doctor is she?
She's a spinal surgeon,
A spinal
or
surgeon, just a very, very credible woman who
Right.
she had drowned, and her description of heaven, because I've been a believer for a long time,
Yeah.
but I've never had people go to heaven who I loved like this.
Yeah.
You
She
know,
lost her mom when she
yeah,
was 7. My grandma died earlier that year.
right. But child loss is not, it's just not the normal
No.
thing.
No.
I just couldn't navigate it.
Mm-mm.
I was just too hopeless and couldn't see, even though I survived, I didn't think I would ever live again. So through her
Mm.
testimony, I watched it for a whole year. I mean, a whole
She knew all
year.
her outfits.
You just
But
like watch the same video over and over
well,
again.
she had several of them, and I
Okay.
watched all of them several times, nonstop for a whole year.
Like each video might have had a little something she didn't share in a different
Okay.
video.
Right. And I had the privilege of meeting her as well,
Wow.
which was such a blessing. But it was through that God met me
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know what I needed. I didn't even know what to pray for. I didn't know what
Right.
to ask for. So
Yeah.
he met me through this lady's testimony.
Mm.
And that in that in that year is through her testimony is how my hope was restored.
Mm.
Once I began to get some hope, back in me, my footing began to get a little stable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget this day, because when things like this happen, you go like around the mountain. Like if we wouldn't have stopped at Subway, if
Yeah.
we would have went to Wendy's, if
Yeah.
this, if that, and
Yeah.
you just you
You
just
drive
We
go.
have
yourself
a million
crazy.
of them. We have a
Yeah.
million of them.
So I decide, I had made up my mind, like, I just, I probably will never understand the why because
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't make sense.
No.
But I remember just really meaning it with everything in my heart. I said, Lord, I will never, ever understand the why of this. I just don't think I will. I said, but for some reason, I survived this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, whatever it is you want me to do,
Mm-hmm.
I said, the answer is yes. And
Mm.
I truly meant it. I
Mm.
truly meant it because I decided in that moment that I was going to live for Lindy, Christopher, and Kamryn. I believe that my assignment was to continue to write their love story and to
Mm.
continue to build their legacy.
Mm.
And through what God had given me, that I wanted to give that gift away to others
Mm.
who were struggling with loss and trauma and different things. So I don't remember the exact timing of it, but it was right around the 9-10 month,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
after the crash. And um after that is when things really began to kind of open up for us.
Yeah, like we have a couple of driving prevention programs around here, really good programs, and they reached out to us. I mean, if you would ask me what my least desirable job would be public speaking. Like I went to school,
Right.
I graduated, I had an HIM degree working from home for a hospital, secluded, antisocial, like please. Even for the funeral, the pastor was like, "So who's speaking?" And I'm giving him a list, and he said, "I really think you should speak." And I'm blowing him off like, "Look,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
enough. I don't need to speak." And then when I handed him the list, he's like, "Your name's not on here." And so I ended up speaking, but if I wouldn't have, I would have regretted that for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so these driving prevention programs reached out to us wanting us to speak. And the first one we ever did was for the Louisiana District Attorney's annual meeting or something. And she was not talking.
I was not speaking yet.
Mm-hmm.
So she came with me. And it's crazy to even look back at the pictures and see, because we were still like in a
In
fog.
shock. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I was a mail carrier all my life. I was a
Mm-hmm.
rural mail carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Very content delivering my mail and raising my
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Yeah.
And just never ever could have dreamed our lives would have went in this direction.
Of course. Of course. When you talk about the hope that started emerging, I guess, within you after you were watching these videos, what was the hope for? What was it about? What did it
The
look
hope,
like?
yeah, it was more, I really, like I said earlier, I was breathing, but I didn't think I was going to be able to live again, to have anything to look forward that
Yeah.
there would be no purpose in life,
Yeah.
um,
Remember, I vividly remember this. It was March after the crash, so about 4 months. She had just got out of the wheelchair, and I have no idea, but we booked a trip to Northwest Arkansas. My husband and I had went there a month before the crash. I'm like, it's beautiful here. It's so nice. Kamryn would love it. So, we wanted to go there, and then we just randomly booked a trip, and we went to a drive-through zoo. And we both don't like animals.
Not that we don't like them.
We're just not animal people.
Not your
I mean,
thing. Yeah.
I hope you do well away from me,
I like to observe them from a distance.
Yeah. And we didn't know what we were getting into. We didn't know like for us to go to
No.
a zoo, that's so random because we
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
so we're driving through the zoo and they have these emus coming and we laughed and belly laughed. And I remember that being the first time laughing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
that felt so good. Like I vividly
Mm.
remember that because it was so profound
Mhm.
to start to
Yeah.
To start to have like an emotion
Yes.
other
To
than
have
just,
any emotion
yeah.
besides, I mean, just heartbreak and sorrow and grief to the
Mhm.
depth of my soul. I mean,
Yeah.
it was it was so profound. Like I didn't know, if I would ever be able to get
Mhm.
above that,
Mhm.
ever experience another emotion besides this is deep
Mhm.
sorrow and grief. That was
Mhm.
it just was so, I was so full of it, I just
Mhm.
I was looking for hope to be able to at least experience moments of joy, not just
Mhm.
covered in grief and heartache
Mhm.
and brokenness.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. I
it
mean,
was,
I think that is going to speak to so many people
uh,
who hear this.
and even today, um, you know, I'm so thankful there are many moments where we experience joy, but
Mhm.
it's never full
full
joy.
joy.
It's
No.
always mixed with, so like just an example, my little granddaughter, her oldest daughter, Katie, and her husband just bought her a vehicle. And oh, I was, so happy to see her
Mhm.
little face when she got it. But immediately,
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh man, I
Yeah.
wanted to do that for Kamryn so bad. Kamryn was 41 days short of getting her driver's license
Yeah.
and would have been ecstatic to get her
Mhm.
own little car. So I'm so thankful for the moments of
Mhm.
joy because there was a time I didn't
Right.
think I would ever be able to experience joy
Right.
again at
Right.
any level.
Yeah.
But
It's like we finally learned they can coexist.
they can
Mhm.
coexist.
Right.
It takes time and it's a process, and I've had to put in a lot of work. I still go to,
Mhm.
we're 4 years in, I still go to grief counseling, but I can tell you it is the most amazing thing because as painful as it is, the way we go to schools, what we do in honor of the kids, all the preventative drunk driving and all the things that we do. It is so painful because we have to go back to that horrible night
Yeah.
every time we do
Yep.
it. However, in that pain, because it forces us to process it and to go back there and not to hide behind it,
Yeah.
it also brings healing in a way
Hmm.
that I never could have imagined,
Yeah.
you
I
know, because
100%
I
understand.
compare myself to my husband. Men and women grieve very, very
Hmm.
differently.
Yeah.
So he still has trouble looking at pictures, looking at videos. He can only take
Hmm.
just small amounts of,
Hmm.
diving in and
Yeah.
going there.
And you can
Yeah.
see the difference in the work being put in and not. There's a
Right.
big difference
Right.
in
Yeah, and I knew from the beginning, I knew that we were going to grieve differently. Just
Hmm.
he's a homebody, and
Hmm.
I'm not a homebody. Those kids had me everywhere all the time. And so I just told him from the beginning, I said, look, I know we're going to grieve differently. I said, I'm going to give you all the grace that you need. I said, please do whatever you need to do to get through this. I said,
Hmm.
because this is not going to be an easy road. This is going to
Hmm.
be a lifetime event. I
Yes.
said, but please do the same for me and allow me the grace to be able to grieve the way that I need to grieve. I said, because we're going to do it very differently.
Yeah. And what
And
did he say to that?
for the most part, you know, our biggest thing is what we do kind of takes me away from home a lot. You know,
Okay.
we're always doing presentations.
Hmm.
Like next week, I'm traveling to California to do a
Yeah.
presentation, and
He would like to keep her in a safe bubble if he
yeah,
could, but she's like, I'd rather die. I'd truly rather die than.
it's just his safe. That's his safe space to know
Yeah.
that everybody's home, and
Which is
but
absolutely understandable.
it's so
Right.
understandable. But for me to do that, that's not living to me.
Right.
And you know,
He didn't bring us to this for nothing.
yeah, I just look at this, that God has just opened up so many invitations and opportunities to, be able to, share our story, and just, I just don't want to waste the opportunity that I feel that we have been
Mhm.
given to, of course, tell about Lindy, Christopher, and Kamryn. But my main thing is that to take what we have been given and to give it away so that it can, just like what Dr. Mary Neal's story did for me.
Mhm.
If our story can help someone, even one,
Yeah.
it's worth what we do. If what we do can help somebody make a better decision behind the wheel,
Yeah.
you know, to make the right decision before something like this happens, because you can't go back. You
Hmm.
can't go back and
No.
change what's been happened,
No.
what's happened.
No.
And
So let's talk a little bit then. Well, okay, first of all, I'm going to be thinking about this for a very long time, that just because you're alive doesn't mean you're truly living.
right.
And I think that we're probably of similar mindsets. I'm also a person of faith. And so when it comes to what it means for me to live, the only way I was able to carry the pain of my experience was to make it mean something. And I contend that those who survive survival, it's not that it's a competition or anything, but that are able to do that, are able to mine the meaning. And again, it's not like there's a reason for everything. We're not into toxic positivity here, because that's just preposterous. But it doesn't mean there can't be a purpose. And it seems to me that you have landed on that. And it sounds to me like it started out from a place of making sure that your children and your siblings' lives really mattered and that they weren't forgotten. But now it has taken on like layers, perhaps, of meaning, if I'm articulating that correctly. So can you walk us through what has that experience been like for you? When you were asked to speak for the first time to two people who are very openly not identifying as public speakers, what was that? What was that first experience like for you?
Oh, well, I tell you, it was so just great the way that it happened. Because we were doing it with high school children, for me, it didn't put that pressure on me.
It wasn't like a room full of adults in
Right.
business suits. It was
Okay.
So it was just such a, God is so good. He won't throw you into something that you're not ready for. He
Yeah.
really just walks you through so gently, and
Mm.
trains you and prepares you.
Hmm.
And it was just smaller groups of high school kids.
and it was a program that was already established through a hospital, and they came to us. So they worried about logistics and permission
Hmm.
slips and all of that. We just got to show up,
Hmm.
share our story,
Yeah.
and leave.
So it was a
Yeah.
very
Gentle launch.
very
Okay.
gentle launch that was just something that it just ministered to my heart so much to be, because when you lose people like that, for the first 6 months, 9 months, a year, people are so sympathetic and they
Yeah.
understand. But after time passes,
Mm-hmm.
life goes on.
It does.
And but not for
Not
me,
yours. Mm-mm.
not mine. And
Mm-mm.
you just feel this kind of tendency like, well, maybe they don't want to hear about them anymore, but that's all I want to talk about. So it
Mm-hmm.
gave me this beautiful outlet
Mm-hmm.
to be able to continue to talk about Lindy, Christopher, and Kamryn.
Mm-hmm.
And then the best part of it is that knowing that even if it's just one in this room, that it could possibly save this kid's life,
Mm-hmm.
just possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I've another thing that really has just been a big thing lately is, when this happened, I lost the three kids. Overnight we had empty nests because those were the last three at home, and then I had to end up retiring from my job that I had been
Yeah.
working at since 1982.
Wow.
So everything that I knew in that inner circle was gone. So
Gone.
I didn't know who I was. So
Mm-mm.
that was another thing. And um,
Even before the kids, your identity wasn't
yeah,
you, it was mom.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just an abrupt, just digging in and really searching for who was it? Who am I?
Yeah.
Who did God create me to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know all this stuff was in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it just really, I began to just dig in and really get intimate and really truth tell with myself,
Mm.
because I didn't really know how to do that. I never
Mm-hmm.
went down there to see who am I, because
Well,
I
you
was just
probably didn't have the time.
I did. And I was mom to nine kids. I
Good
worked for the
grief.
post office. Like I said, I worked 6 days a week,
Yeah.
and this kid had this, and
Yeah.
so that was I just really didn't know who I was. And I really began to dig deep into identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like one of the names that God has given me is through this tragedy is that He has called me to be a gateway of hope.
Mm.
And I think the purpose and the identity of Simmons 3, our nonprofit, is to
Mm-hmm.
transform the hearts of people in the secret places,
Mm.
because we'll never know who decides to make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
because that's done deep in the heart. Like,
Yeah.
these kids might be in a situation where they say, yeah, I'm not gonna drive. I remember Lindy, Christopher, and
Mm-hmm.
Kamryn's story, and I don't want to do that to a family.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's something we'll never know.
Right.
But I trust and believe with everything in me that those decisions are taking place. And I think that that is the purpose of our nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
it's
it started off as drunk driving prevention,
right.
drunk
Okay.
driving prevention. And then I feel like over the last couple months, our
Right.
head is finally out of the big grief cloud that you don't even really realize you're in. And
Mm-hmm.
our presentations, we use like a PowerPoint, and they're just
I find it's a shift
a shift in our message. Like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
don't
It'll
drink and
all
drive. That's the vehicle. That's our big message. But we even added in slides about legacy and
Mm-hmm.
making choices. So like we show the drunk driver we show a slide with all the kids' names and their birth date and their death date. And she talks about how no one knows when that death date is going to be stamped on. So that little dash, that is this. What are you going to do with that? It almost turns into like a motivational speech.
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
about good decisions, character building.
Like the guy, we show a picture of the guy, the guy who killed the kids. He was a Marine. He was probably a hard worker. And we show them, go Google his name and see what comes up. Are you going to see his accolades, what he accomplished? No, nothing else matters,
No.
because of his one decision
Yeah.
reshaped his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And then we show the kids the legacy, everything we've built with them. And it's just really cool to see how from where we started to where we are. It took a
Right.
lot of work.
Yeah, in that first year, I had many conversations with God, just so lost, just didn't know really what
Yeah.
was up and what was down. And I told the Lord, I said, your word says you bring beauty from all things. And I
Mm-hmm.
told him, I said, you can't bring beauty from this. It's
Mm-hmm.
impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And he just tenderly loved me and guided me. And I mean, the beauty from this tragedy is something I just could have never foreseen. I mean, don't get me wrong. Gosh, I wish we weren't here.
A
I
hundred
There's
percent.
still a lot of tears
oh,
and
Yeah. Well, I'm having them right now. So I just it's just
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you get this all the time, but like it just really is so mind-blowingly inspiring to sit in this space with you two. I hope you know that. Um
thank you.
and just sit witness to healing.
Yeah.
And the healing journey is never done.
No.
It'll
No.
never be over.
No, this will continue till I take my last breath.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I can imagine there's part of you that's like, what a joyful day that will be, right?
Oh, one
Right?
day closer. Every
Yeah.
day is one day closer.
But the
Yeah.
fact that you're not wasting this time,
Right.
we waste so much time. And
We
to your point about that hyphen, right? In between your birthday and your
That
last day,
dash. Yeah.
you know, that decision that you make, for good or for bad, and that's going to be what you're remembered for. And the legacy that you two are establishing and carrying out, you could have chosen something very different. And instead you have, turned something beautiful from these ashes. And I think that if you can do it, then anybody can do it. And again, like, we all have
That's
different
the truth.
tools and resources
That's
and
right. And
all of the things, but
right.
it really is, it's encouraging. And tell us more about your nonprofit and what y'all do and how we can support and how we can connect with you and all the things.
So yeah, she's the backbone of that. I'm just the face.
Yeah.
She's our sad mama
Yeah,
mascot.
I'm the sad mama mascot. This girl is amazing. That's all I can tell you. What she has done. And I'm gonna tell you a little secret. That thing was bad when she was little, yeah. Oh, she was something else. But she was so stubborn. Oh, she
Mm,
was
You
something
said
else.
black,
mm,
I said
Oh
white.
yeah. But I look back now and I'm
mm,
so thankful for the personality and
mhm,
the way that she was created, because I truly believe that those strengths and the way she was created was made for that December 17th night, for what she was going to have to do that night. That took a very special type of person to do that not many people could have carried that weight on their shoulders, and all what
mhm,
she's done. So
mhm,
she's amazing.
mhm,
So I think I took about 3 months off of work after the crash. And I loved my job. Still love I still call her my boss, my old manager, my coworkers. I had been at the hospital for about 5 years, and it just got to the point, we started speaking, so that and this started, we didn't go out looking for that, it came to us.
yeah.
So the nonprofit was started uh December 16th of 22. It was one
Okay.
day short of 1 year after the
Okay.
crash.
Okay.
And it was founded that day, but we still didn't know what we were doing.
No.
We didn't know. If someone would come to me and say, "So how do you start a nonprofit?"
Right.
I don't know
I don't
how
know
we
how we
got
did it.
here,
Yeah.
but just it's just to look back and see all the things. It's so crazy. I quit my job, I believe, in March of 24, and that was a leap of faith. I mean,
Mm,
I was a single mom whenever I was in college. It took me 8 years to finish between working and,
Hmm.
it was, so I was proud of my degree, proud of my job. And the thought that I wasn't going to retire from that hospital, I didn't even want to entertain that. And,
Hmm.
this is a big leap of faith for me because I like to work my 40 hours and know that my check's coming.
Yeah.
With this, it was a leap of faith, but thank God, we were blessed after the crash, a GoFundMe,
Hmm.
it did really well, which because
Yeah.
my best friend texted me and she's like, she's a private investigator. She found someone on the scene of the crash and he said the man was in his underwear and there was trash everywhere. So they thought he was homeless. So I'm like, oh my gosh, if this man's homeless and my mom can't work, I said, I guess I'll just start a GoFundMe. I was like,
Hmm.
it ended up doing really well. It allowed my mom not to have to have a financial worry
Yeah.
while worrying about losing her kids.
Right.
So they were able to put that money in a trust, and then I just had a fallback. If this nonprofit doesn't work, and then you can maybe go back to work if it doesn't work out. So it allowed me to take that leap of faith. And I mean, Kendra Scott, the brand Kendra Scott, they reached out to us 4 days after the crash, wanting to help. And
Wow.
one thing led to another. They actually have two necklaces named after my sister. Now, this is their first necklace they released,
Oh.
And this is
and
the
that's the
second
second
one.
necklace
Yeah.
named after
Oh.
her. So,
And Lindy was a little Kendra Scott girl from Little Bitty
Oh.
Girl. Yeah.
and that was a total coincidence that my sister loved them and they got in touch with us,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they supported us every year. There's a local businessman in the community that took a chance on us. And we look back and we don't know how we made it,
Hmm.
but I learn a little more each day. I'm able to like we put on a golf tournament, and
Hmm.
never played golf before. I never been to a golf course before. My husband played golf, which was a big help, but we were able to put on a golf tournament and raise 35,000 for the first year. So each year God levels us up a little bit. He'll let me learn a little more and a little more and a little more. And now we're a pretty well established, well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how we got here, but
But
All
our main
I keep thinking of that phrase. I remember from my, church going days when I was a kid that God doesn't call the equipped, but he equips the called.
absolutely.
that's
Know,
that's
and
exactly what's happening
Because we
here.
yeah.
were very unequipped.
But I mean, isn't that just
Yeah.
that's just how we survive survival. It's just
Yeah.
trusting,
That's
trusting.
what we've had to learn to do.
Trusting. I used to always, yeah, I trust God. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I didn't know what trust was. I
No,
mean, I truly didn't know what it was
no,
until
most of us don't. Most of us
in
never know.
the depths of pain and heartache and just
Mm,
really not knowing
mm,
how we were
Even
going to
with the
navigate.
nonprofit, I still don't know what I need to know about the back end. I learn more every day, but um even when we're not sure where the next donation's gonna come from, I always remind myself, he wouldn't have brought us this far for
Right.
nothing. He would,
right.
and then something, and it just always works out.
Always works out.
Always works out. So anytime I question, should I go back to my job? Going back to my job would be the easy
Hmm.
way out. We have a story to tell.
Yeah,
And you have lives to save.
We
that's
do.
right.
We do.
Ladies, I am forever grateful for this conversation, this time with you. You have definitely shifted my perspective, and I don't use that language lightly. I have a lot of things that I need to go journal about now, so thank you for that. How can people connect with you? How can they support you? Find out how to bring you to their organization or their school. What's the best way for people to reach out?
We have a website. It's simmons3.com, SIMMONS, and then the number 3.com.
Mm.
On there, we have ways to donate. We have our story. We have a presentation request form. We do go out of state. I have little kids still in school, so we don't travel too much. But like next month, we're going to Atlanta, then Pennsylvania. So we are able to travel. We like the request. If we can
Mhm.
make it work, we can. I post a lot on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube. It's Katie Derwon. I'm sure I might have to spell that. It's Cajun last name.
Yeah, spell it for us.
Katie Dederoue. And if you type that in, I should pop right up. It's usually me and mom on the profile picture, but
Yeah.
we document our journey and encourage everyone to follow along.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, that's how I found you. I found you on Instagram and I was like, oh, I gotta talk to these ladies. I gotta
Awesome.
talk to these ladies. So we'll put all of the information in the show notes too. And yeah, just this unspeakable trust is what I'm walking away with today. So, and I
Yes,
needed that. I needed
Yeah.
that right now. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to How to Survive Survival. If you found something meaningful here, I'd ask for you to subscribe, share, or leave a 5-star review so these conversations can reach others who are walking their own road back. You can learn more about me and my work at www.jessbuchanan.com. And until next time, remember, what happened to you is only part of the story. What you choose to do with it is where your power lives.